Hello, hello. Welcome here this beautiful Saturday. It's another day for our podcast, and we are so glad that you tune in to us here. This is the Gracious Hope live stream podcast. My name is Alexander Red, and of course, Reverend Suah is also here. Now, most Liberians know Counselor Tiawan Gongloe as a human rights lawyer who cares for and defends those who do not have the means to stand up for themselves against persistent abuse of governmental power and influence. Now, what you do not know about this renowned human rights lawyer will dominate our discussion for today on the Gracious Hope live stream podcast. Of course, he's a man of faith. He believes in Christ Jesus. And we would like to know what motivated him to fulfill his dream of becoming a successful Liberian human rights lawyer and leader within the arena of jurisprudence. Now, he once served as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Liberia at the Justice Ministry, and he also left an impeccably impressive record as president of the Liberia Bar Association. And it is fascinating that we have Counselor Gongloe here on our podcast for today. And we know that he is presently in the United States, and many Liberian-US residents are clamoring to support his future presidential bid. Why so? Now, we're going to find out. You're going to know Counselor Gongloe, more about him today. And this podcast is all about contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. And our platform is geared toward preserving and promoting the Liberian Christian heritage. My name is Alexander Ray once again, and I'm so glad to bring on our co-host, Reverend Suah S. Deddeh. Reverend Deddeh, we
Hey,
got Counselor Gongloe today
tell me
as
about
our
that.
special
Tell me
guest.
about that, Alex. Tell me. Just, I'm excited because I know this man, and I want to just say it on the get go. Counselor Gongloe stood with us at the Press Union of Liberia when I was Secretary General and President. We didn't spend a dime. We did not spend a dime on Counselor Gongloe, not of the other councillors who stood by us in thick and thin when we were when we were on a danger on a child stealer. He stood with us in thick and thin, and I'm not ashamed to say he is a man of integrity. Somebody who you can count on, somebody who you can. Again, I'm not running a campaign, Alex. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, as I see it, as somebody who benefited from his free services. Dempster Brown or Jay Ware or Bian Kessley and him, they were always with the president. Now, tell me, if you have somebody who is a human rights advocate who will give you free services when you are in times of need, wouldn't you be thankful to that person when you have the opportunity to say it? So I have the time to say it now. So Liberians who are saying to us, Alex, I talked with somebody yesterday and he said, "Oh, we are in a diaspora. We are talking big mouth and we don't know what's happening in Liberia." And I tell them, "You don't know where we've come from." I said,
Yeah.
Ellis had a desperate situation himself, and Councilor Gongloe was there to defend him when Chancellor wanted to get his head. When we were attacked, in any way you can think about, he was there to defend us. So we were in advocacy before. We went through the difficult times in Liberia, and he was there with us. So being America does not change anything. We still love our country. We still want to see the good thing happen in our country, especially this recent situation that happened, at least with this July 26 violence. It kind of worrisome. It's a bad omen for our country. So we are glad to have Councilor Gongloe here with us today. I am excited to hear him saying what is causing him to change from the renowned and famous human rights advocate to the presidency. What is the motivating factor? We really want to know today. So, Alex, let's do this.
Yes, and that is the point question right there. So we want to know who is Counselor Tiawan Gongloe, and this program is all about human interests, knowing our leaders and what they can contribute to our society. We want a vibrant society. We want a society in where righteousness and justice can prevail. And we believe that a counselor is no stranger when it comes to justice, because the scripture says righteousness exalts a nation, but sin
Yes.
is a reproach to a people. And so we look at our history, we know that it is because of sin or falling short of the glory of God is where we find ourselves. So we are so glad to have Counselor Gongloe here today as our special guest. We will be right back, but don't forget to share our link, okay? Share this link right now with your friends, relatives, and loved ones, okay? We'll be right back.
Exactly. Counselor Gongloe, everything he said about who he is who he is. I wanted to stand up here to just tell you because you see, the work I do has afforded me the opportunity to closely follow people for who they are and who they say they are. And I stand here to vouch for him. To change Liberia, this is the kind of leader we need to change Liberia. I know some people will be like, but I thought you already supposed somebody. Yes. But does that mean I don't recognize what he has in him? I say it publicly on my radio show. Some people say, but you're confusing also. No, I will never shun from telling you the truth. Far too many of our people are bad. You know, Lincoln said, any man can withstand some adversity, but to test the true character of a man, give him power. Gongloe has been tried and tested. He has resisted the urge and temptation to be corrupt in a country where corruption is celebrated. There are no repercussions for being corrupt. In fact, you are made Father of the Year, Mother of the Year, Special Father. But he said, I don't want to be Special Father. Resigned. His kind is rare. There's another one right in this room. Christopher Neal there. So challenge the system, punish you for that. Not many of our people can do that. I respect this man. And we all sit here, we all may be thinking about supporting somebody else. But election is a whole year and something away. You never know, right? God's will. All the time he has stood up for me. He would be at home on a Saturday in the years I'm in jail. He would leave the comfort of his home and come to get me out. Every time I go to jail, yes. He would never accept payment from us. So it came a time we never even offered because we knew he would not take it from all of us. The people in power today, the cities, people, all of us. One day I went to the office. I said, Counselor, they want an payment of gas. He didn't want to take it. I left the horn out there. I said, literally, this is just gas. But that's who he is. You know, I wish Liberia had many Tiawan Gongloes. It would not be where it is. I often say to people, to fix Liberia, you must first take your own interest and set it aside. You must desire nothing for yourself at the expense of the people to fix the country. Until you find such a people, your country will go nowhere. The country can be great, but to be great, you need one individual, not 10 people, not the cabinet, not anybody else, but the president to have the political will to say, I personally am not doing it, you will not do it. And not many people can say that and really be able to do it. Tiawan Gongloe can. He can, because he's done it before. To know that they would do it is to know that they've done it before. To know that they will resist the temptation to steal is to know that they have resisted it before. Past behavior is a determinant of future behavior. There's a great man. There's a great man. Not much I can say. Thank you.
All right, that was Henry P. Costa last night at a fundraiser for Counselor Gongloe, and he had nothing to say but to share his experience with the counselor, and that is why Counselor Gongloe is so unique. And so we titled this podcast "The Tiawan Gongloe Factor in Liberian Politics." Why you don't know about him? And so we are so glad today to bring on our special guest, Counselor Gongloe. We'd like to say welcome to our podcast, and this is the Gracious Hope Live podcast. Welcome.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Council.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to see Suah today. I haven't seen him for a very long time. And I'm happy to see you put in your new roles. You know, former journalist. I don't know whether you can be former journalist because it's something that is ingrained in you. And we have on this show a former print journalist, Suah Deddeh, and then a radio journalist, former radio journalist, Alex Ray.
Yes.
You know, it's really pleasing to be alive and to hear things that is normally said, you know, things that are normally said at funerals. So I'm really, really happy hearing from you, hearing from Henry Costa. It just pleases me. And I think just by the intros, some young people will try to be like me. And I hope they can be even better than me. I just want to make correction on what Suah said about naming people. You meant Bien Howard, not
The
Bien
Bien Howard,
Kessler.
yeah, Bien Howard, exactly.
That was my
Bien
partner.
Thank you, Council.
Bien Howard was my partner in the things that we were doing. He was the first to go into politics. He's now a member of the House of Representatives, representing Zozo District. So I'm really happy to be here. The Bible is right. Good name is better than silver and gold. And this is what I'm experiencing today, hearing you and hearing him, because it just strengthens me. When I was in jail, when I was arbitrarily detained and severely tortured by Taylor in 2002, thousands of people came out, poor people came out to my defense immediately. And that saved my life. And Taylor could not go further. He regretted his action. So I see that when you work for humanity, the gratitude that you experience remains forever. Because each of you experienced whatever I did for you more than 20 years ago, and you are still grateful. The people who had money and paid me for legal services those days are finished with me because they can pay any other lawyer. But the bond that I have with you people will remain there forever. And when some of you write your books, you will always refer to those periods. So I'm happy to be on your show.
Indeed.
And I've been fighting, and you people have been fighting for giving concrete manifestation to the name Liberia. We are the only people whose country is called Liberia, land of liberty. So all those things about repression, stopping people from writing what they think, saying what they think, assembling to speak to their leader based on how they feel the country should be run, are all inconsistent with the name Liberia. We are a dream country, and that dream remains elusive today because of the people who have been governing us. So that's why I want to help give concrete manifestation to the dream that established a country that is called Liberia, so that repression can be foreign to Liberia, so that the highest award that the government of Liberia can give to anyone will be upholding human rights, because that is what defines us and makes us different from any country. Even America, that is a satellite of democracy, is not called land of liberty. We are. We have to translate that into how we govern.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Okay, so now we have some of our viewers out there who really do not know you well. They know that you are a renowned Liberian human rights lawyer, and they know that you believe in justice, and you would like for justice to be dispensed accordingly or under the law. We are all equal, and you have done that consistently throughout the years. Now, We also understand that you are a man of faith. You hail from Nema County. Tell us, how did you grow up, and who are your parents, your siblings, and some of your challenges, and where you find yourself now? Let us go through that journey.
That's very good. Nobody has asked me that question. I don't remember anybody asking me that question. Uh, I was born in 1956. My mother is from Bon County. That's the place I grew up in, a little town called Kwaipa. It's behind Zowinta. Zowinta is well known in Bon County. It's a big market area. I think the biggest market in Bon County. Uh, I have 10 surviving siblings. One of my well-known siblings is a journalist by training, Edith Gongloe, now a politician. She became a politician before me. She was a superintendent of Nema County and has run for the senatorial seat 3 times and has come second. In fact, we believe that she won 3 times and was cheated by the system. So she's there. Then I have Dakai Gongloe. He's next to me. A very quiet young man, but a power horse himself. In 1984, he won. He came second in the writing competition conducted by Ministry of Information on population growth. But he's a quiet guy, but very powerful. In fact, he's the only person in our family that won any writing award in writing, but he's just a quiet guy, but very important in our family. Sometimes people just think about me and Edith. Then you have Counselor Gongloe. He has 2 master's degrees in the area of statistics, epidemiology, and applied statistics. In Philadelphia here, he is a part-time professor at several universities. But again, another quiet guy. He has been assistant minister of labor for labor statistics and was heading the graduate program that the government had at the Budget Bureau that has been transferred to the University of Liberia now. He successfully headed it for a period of 2 years. I have another brother who's a counselor at law now, Philip Gongloe. In fact, he's the one I left the law office with to come to America. He's a great lawyer. He's been a lawyer for Ministry of Commerce and has handled a lot of cases. One time he represented, and he's a very liberal person. They learned after me. One time he was in court and Senator Prince Johnson's party was being ejected. There was a case to evict his party from its headquarters. And without retaining Philip Gongloe, the Gongloe factor, he jumped in there and defended Prince Johnson's party voluntarily. And Prince Johnson was so pleased that he sent for him and said, wow, I didn't retain you. He said, yeah, I heard your name. You are from my country and your party was being disgraced. I jumped in there and helped. I have another sister, Salome Gongloe Gofan. She is a well-known expert in the NGO sector. She worked for IRS before, and currently she's the executive director for an NGO that was established by Counselor Gongloe, RISI, that is doing a lot of community awareness for people who live in the forest areas in different parts of Liberia. She's a well-known name. Then I have another sister called Rennie Gongloe. Her name is known popularly, Rennie Gongloe Gibson. That one is another power horse, but she's so quiet. This lady serves on the international board of the Youth Christian Fellowship. She was elected to represent Africa in Mexico. She traveled more than anybody in the family. She's been to Singapore. One of my colleagues, a lawyer who went to a conference in South Africa, saw Rennie sitting on a stage with the World Board of the Christian Young Christian Fellowship. I don't know the exact name of the organization. And he said, wow, Mrs. Gibson, if I were like you, I would be in all the newspapers in Liberia. You mean you're such an important person and you sit on the stage there on this continent where you have Nigerians, South Africans, Ghanaians, and all these people, and you are being re-elected as a knowledgeable person and a devoted Christian, and you don't make any noise about being Liberian. She said, that's part of my Christian faith. We are supposed to be self-effacing and God has lifted me up. I don't need to boast. I'm not a politician. I'm doing my work. I have another sister who is a nurse. In fact, I have two sisters who are nurses working for the Liberian people. One is a nurse midwife, has a degree in nurse midwifery. Then another one who is a nurse, graduated from TNI, went and got a degree in nursing, and she works way in the rural area in Suah area in Bonka and Mercy Gongloe. The other one is Gloria Gongloe Mulba, and on and on. So, you know, we have one sister who didn't go far in school. We are taking, she's in fact ill right now. We are taking care of her. So yes, that's the family that we have. Then I went to school in Nimba County. I went to Mela Public School. Mela Public School is way deep in the forest of Nimba County. I used to sit on the bench, the bamboo bench, in Prima 1, Prima 2. So I have that experience. After school, going to the farm to help my mother and father. My father was a teacher and principal at the school. Imagine you teaching from ABC to 4th grade, one person. That's what Teacher Gongloe was doing. But and he was, I guess, the transformative spirit and the defiance against established order probably came from him, because I remember in 1964, when all the women came from Sandy Bush, young ladies, they had been direct to different men in different parts of Nimba. Teacher Wilfred Gongloe said, I didn't come here to teach boys alone. I will teach girls. They said, but we're eating money for this. These children, he said, you will return the money. He actually insisted that none of the girls would be direct. Some of them, one of them has a PhD today. Mrs. Bonner, she was supervisor of schools in Nimba. She was supervisor of schools in Lofa. And she came and got her PhD. And she credits her education to the late Teacher Gongloe because he insisted that she would not be direct. Another one lives in California, in Los Angeles. There's another one that lives in Philadelphia. She's a nurse. Sheila Dolly Bodulu. You know Noah Bodulu. Noah Bodulu's wife is one of those who benefited from that. So a lot of young ladies today who are living better life from that area say it was not for Teacher Gongloe's insistence going against the chiefs and the Zoes and everyone, we would not have been who we are. So I believe that there's some natural connection in this defiance against established order that is wrong, that affects the lives of human beings. So I think I got something from Teacher Gongloe. So, and my mother was a devout Christian. My father was a Christian, but I think my mother was just greater. She didn't go to school, but she learned how to read the Bible in manner, and she read the Bible from cover to cover, and she like memorized it. And she was just very good. I think because of how good they were to God, they lived so long, because my father died at 94, and our mother died at 96. I should say sometimes I used to ask God for forgiveness because I didn't want to see my mother suffering. She couldn't sit up anymore. She was thinking properly and remembering things, but life was just so difficult. And God did well to take her peacefully. One evening, she just told her children, two of my sisters, turn off the light. I want to sleep. Not knowing she was going into the deep sleep. And in the morning, they called and said, we don't know what is happening to the old man. They take her to ELW hospital. ELW rejected her, took her to Cali hospital. They took her and announced her death. And we gave her a decent burial. Same thing to Teacher Gongloe. We call him Papa Degree. In fact, his grandchildren call him Papa Degree because he would just be passing English or be, you're a high school graduate, what are you doing in town? Why don't you go for your degree? And they said, because your children have degree, move from behind. He will insist until they leave. One of the persons who credits Papa Degree for his education today is Milan Vaughn. He's in Washington, D.C., completing his PhD. He said, I was in Glazer Bay just going and drinking palm wine. And he said, you finish high school. What are you doing here? Leave the town. Insisted until he left the town, went to Africa, and eventually he ended in America. But that's the spirit of advocacy that was in Teacher Gongloe that all of us have. All of us. So I think, and then I went to school in Tapeta. The first time I went to school, my God, I walked at the age of 8. I walked from Mela to Tapeta. You start in Mela around 5 o'clock in the morning and you arrive in Tapeta on foot. There was no motor road in Mela at that time, not like today. We reached Tapeta 6 o'clock in the evening and my feet were all swollen. But my father insisted that I would leave. Because the first time my mother was trying to spoil me and he was teacher in the school. So he said, the man stays here, you will not learn. So he sent me away, which was a very hard decision for him because he loved me so much too. But I went to school in Tapeta, and then after that, I went to Monrovia. I didn't like Monrovia. I went back because we were taught by the Piscos in Tapeta. And they would tell you CASSAV, cassava, right? Well, I got to Monrovia in the third, in 1967. The lady I was staying with said, my son, go to the old baker to buy me Kisawa. I was confused. Why do call Kisawa? Because the English I learned was the one the Pisco taught in school. I remember I spoke Mana. I wouldn't spoke English in school. I spoke standard English. I got a Monrovia to say, Kisawa, bring that to do. And you lot do so and so. I said, what do you call you lot? I never understood that. So after 1 year, based on different reasons, and then the lady I stayed with, peace be to her, actually she tried her best, but I wanted to play. I couldn't play. When I go to play, I come by, they will beat me. They will pepper me. So I understand the street children situation. I used to, at the age of 11, I would hear my name on the radio. There is an 11-year-old boy who is missing for the past 3 days. You last seen wearing a blue short trouser and a yellow shirt. We are looking for him. I'm a coconut plantation. Climbing up with picking coconut to sell to survive. As now you jump in the tree, you can see your fellow Grenada boys and you all fight. When you beat somebody, then you get a friend. Then that one become your ally. Even a bee, you'll become ally. And in the night, we used to go collect bottles. When anywhere there's wick, we go collect bottles. That time, 3 Henneken bottles or 3 stout bottles were 3 for 2 cents. So when you manage to collect a cartoon, then 8 cents. And so you get 2-3 cartoons, you're all right. You buy your mommy, put the pepper the next day, and the balance of money, your 15 cents to go to Crying Cinema, 1967. And then after that, that was it. So yes, that was my beginning. I know about making farm. It is interesting there about Teacher Gongloe. So I grew up going to school, my siblings in the interior helping my family with farm work. My younger brother next to me, that guy is a harder working man than me. All of them. Even Calabo, they know about farm business more than me. God, my father kept pushing me. Go to this place, go to San Nicolas, go to school. So 1973 is an interesting story. I said, I want to go to Monrovia for vacation. He said, yeah, you're going tomorrow morning. Not knowing the boys in the town have formed the town coup. Coup is a system of, you go on a collective farming group. You go on my farm today, we go on your farm tomorrow, then after that, another person. There were 17 persons are going to be the number 18. Early in the morning, 5:30, they're blowing the horn. Poo, 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 that cow horn to wake up everybody to go. My father can knock the door. He gave me a blacksmith made cutlass and a miskin glove. He said, I wait to Monrovia. You better go join your friends so you can learn how to make farm. So I joined the coup. And I can tell you, physically, I was not strong. We want to farm. Every ton of bush, 10 ton of rope in the bush are cutting me. How can the other boys brushing and they can't get caught, nothing touching them? I said, but for me, because I didn't know how to cut the stuff, I was all sold everywhere. Then I asked them at the end of the day, we'll rest tomorrow. They said, no, we're not resting tomorrow, go another person's farm. I had to put my hand in hot water. But that was, I enjoyed today, reflecting on the past, that my father helped me to be a full member of the village, joining the young people to work hard and to help contribute to production of for the family. Mm-hmm. So yes, that's the beginning. I've been long-winded, but you asked me about how I grew up, I had to tell you.
Yes.
That was fair enough. That was fair enough. Yeah. So I'm interested, Counsel, just to follow up. You explain everything else. Mom was a devout Christian. So how did you come to faith?
So we had to pray every morning and every evening. I came to faith through my mother because we were just born into the Mid Baptist Church, all of us. You see, let me tell you, now I'm going to reveal my secret. My first name was James. That's a biblical name. My younger brother name is John. He still keeps his name. My next brother name is Philip. So these are all biblical names. That were named based on my mother and father biblical commitment. So we're just born. According to her, when I was born, because she was believed to be barren, not really barren, because her first husband was a chief that had many wives, and she was young. So she didn't have child. And when she met my father in 1948, it didn't take until 1956 before I was born. So he was a patient man. If he had been some people, he would have said, oh, the woman can't have child. So when I was born, she felt like this was a magical thing, that there was a gift from God. And she tells the story to all the children that she took me and put me on the altar and said, God, I give him back to you. Use him whichever way you want. So in her mind, she thought I would be a pastor. So when I decided to go to law school, she actually asked me when I went for vacation, why you go join the crooked poor thing? I thought you were going to be a pastor because I gave you to God. So then I used to tell her, say, but you see the work I'm doing at God's work, when people go to jail, I free them. As far back as 1988. I said, you gave me to God and you say, use him the way you want him to use him. He decided to use me in this way. You say law is a crooked profession, but I'm not considered crooked. I am freeing people from jail. I'm representing people who are poor, that my own job God gave me. So that's how I came to faith. I was born in it, right? Let me say before I forget that I'm a family man. I'm married to a beautiful lady from Lofa County called Soni Kolako. And she comes from the two large tribal groups in Lofa County. Her mother is Bandi. Her father is Loma. Of course, you know the famous Kolako. One of them was ambassador, or her uncle was Ambassador Rudolph Kolako. So we have a stake in Lofa too, because they are my in-laws. And so I got connection in Bon County, Nimba, and Lofa County. Oh, let me not forget my sister Edith Gongloe was married to a Bassa man. So I got to take him on the Bassa people too. River says is a former part of Grand Bassa County. So the Bassa Bell is the Bassa Bell. Alex, you are my in-laws too.
I know, huh? So is this your wife in the picture here?
Yes, you see how beautiful the woman looks?
Yeah, she is. She is.
And she's radical like me. She loved Liberia. That woman stayed 23 years in the United States. And now she lives in Liberia, letting the coal part, living under all the conditions. You tell her to come to America. She said, no, I live in that country long. I'm tired. I'm happy being here.
Okay,
she
now
supports me. Yeah.
Yeah, now, so from
And
your
we
mother,
have 3 children. We have 3 children.
or 3 kids. Okay, okay. Now, from what your mother said, looking at politics at the time as being in the arena of crookedness. Okay.
No, law.
You wanted to go to law school, right? And she thought it was all about politics, but your intention was to bring about justice, to advance justice for those who have been taken advantage of. And you have created a track record now as a renowned human rights lawyer. Now, what I would like to know is that how did your faith in Christ help you all through these years to navigate through law school and getting on the scene of politics?
In Matthew 25, the chapter on Judgment Day, for me, is the test for Christianity. When Christ said on Judgment Day, He will say, I was hungry and you were throwing food to the dogs and you did not feed me. You cannot enter the home of my father. And then you say, God, what? If I had seen you, I would have given you the best part of the food. And his response will be, as long as you do not do it to the least of your brothers, you did not do it unto me. I was your neighbor. I was in a hospital. I was sick. You refused to visit me. I was in a jail and you refused to visit me. Everything that I needed right around you, and you have plenty of it, time and money and food, you refuse to give me. And your response would be, God, if I had seen you, trust me, I would have given it to you. If I knew you were in a hospital, I would have come to your aid. I would have come to visit you and comfort you. And God will say, as long as you did not do it to the least of your neighbors, you did not do it unto me. When I read, in fact, in Sunday school interpreter, when that portion, we will lecture on that portion of the Bible, I said, wow, we don't see God. But now God said he made us in his own image and likeness. So there are people who every day pray to God, they fast every day, but they don't care about what happens to their fellow men. For me, the source of my Christianity is how I can use whatever talent God has given me to give some relief to my fellow men. Sometimes my sisters, my wife, and everybody, when I have money, they want to take it from my pocket because I can have $500 in my pocket. Walk in the street, comes at night, easy, $5, $10. So now when I reach home, I have $75 in my pocket. I said, but I told one of my clients, give me $500 today. How come? Sometimes if I'm really broke, I start accusing the children, what happened to my money? Then I start thinking, oh, I've been giving the money away. But that's me. And God always provides. You know, God, you give everything to God. So that is me. And that thing I read in the Bible, that portion of the Bible, really, really, I reread it all of the time, and it motivates me a lot.
That's good. That's good.
Yes.
I mean, it's being your brother's keeper and loving your neighbors as you want them to love you back. I'm thinking, Counsel, in the face of all of this, we have our ups and downs in life. We have our trials and situations. Is there anything that you wish you would redo that you did before that you prefer or you wish you could redo to make it better? Anything?
You know, I went to law school late. I graduated from the University of Liberia in 1981. My plan was different. I said, the person I admire in terms of educated people in Liberia was and still is Dr. Tubana Tipute. When I was a high school student, I attended a GDC graduation in 1974 at the Open Door in Yekepa. And that time, I don't think we had 10 PhDs in Liberia itself. So to have PhD, you look like, wow. So you finish 12th grade, then you go 4 more years at 16th grade, then you go 2 more years at 18th grade, then you go. It looked far to me, and for somebody to get PhD, then I saw Dr. Tipute delivering a speech at the Open Door. You were wearing rubber slippers from car tire, and you were wearing an African gown. And everybody talk about the speech he delivered, PhD, Dr. Tipute in economics. That's the first PhD I saw. So I said myself, I'll go and get PhD too. When I get PhD, then I'll come and go to law school. So when I graduated from the University of Liberia in 1981 and 82, I was employed in the economics department as a teaching assistant. I said, hey, so I'm on the path. When I get my PhD, then I'll come now and go to law school. I always wanted to do law because two things. There was one chief in my mother's town in Bonkade who took all their farmland, planted rubber, and he even cut their cocoa, their coffee tree and all and planted. And then when they talk, those days, the man or client chief have money. Those days they used to collect the taxes and keep some. So that man used to like put mud outside and spread US dollar on it to get dry. Then you will put all the coins in a big iron pot and put kerosene. He and nobody in the town had equal. So when it came to hiring lawyer, nobody could make it with him. In fact, one situation, I will not call a lawyer's name, not to make his family feel bad. He's of sentient memory. But can you imagine you come to Monrovia, my people brought goat, my mother people brought goat, they did all kind of things. They came and hired this lawyer in Monrovia, whose name was ringing. He agreed, he told them, yes, I will deal with that chief. How can you do that? You cannot take your family land, it's wrong. The man came to, I was like 6, 7 years old. Reverend, the man came to the town. He slept at the port, cooked good food for him that Saturday morning. When they went, and our Ministry of Internal Affairs, that time our Interior Department, around 1960, 63, 64, and they went under the Palaba Hall now. The chief hired a lawyer, and then our lawyer was there. He and the other lawyer had met overnight, I believe. The man got up, then he turned around to my late uncle who was working in the marshal, who actually hired him, the late Sammy Mengo. He said, Sam, you know I forgot my license in Monrovia. I don't get a license, so I can't represent you. But nobody objected to him. I heard my uncle then, the only conclusion they reached, they said the chief had bribed the man. Because nobody questioned him. He came from all the way to Monrovia. How will you go to Monrovia? So he took my people and said, how can you do this? And the way my people were treated by that chief, I said, my son, one day I will go to law school and become a lawyer so I can defend my family. You see? So later on, when I got to University of Liberia, we were, another motivation to do law was, I was member of the editorial staff of the university spokesman. That was the student magazine at the university. And at that time, our magazine was the only independent magazine. It's not like today where you got all the newspapers. So there was New Liberia for the government. Then there was Liberian Age for the Chewy Party, run by the late Stanton Peabody. Then there was Sunday Express, run by somebody close to the government, and then inaugural. All those people were not radical people that were carrying government. But we, university spokesmen, used to publish the truth. We had a motto on the back of on the front cover of the university spokesman. If you bullet to our breast, we shall speak the truth. So people used to give us all the information from government. And we now used to look for information from Budget Bureau, from everywhere, and we used to publish. So one day, there was a young man called Edward Berry. People may have heard his story. He was strangulated to death by a Lebanese merchant who, for eating one candy. And so we students were demonstrating for him. But the mother went to court, and over 6, 7 months, we couldn't hear anything. Based on the demonstration of the student University of Liberia, a student from the MCSS system, led by Anthony Cassidy, Larry took by them, the late Christian Herbert them, government was compelled to indict the Lebanese people who were accused of strangulating the fellow to death. The mother went to the circuit court, and he has stayed there so long, we can't hear everything. Therefore, we wrote in the university spokesman that it looked like George Emma Warsaw, who was the presiding judge, had been grabbed by the political barbed wire, the tree party that was being lubricated by the Lebanese merchant in Liberia. And there was a column called "The People Want to Know," and there was another column called Kira Zuba. So it was Kira Zuba that said, "I want to." And then before that time, George Emma Warsaw was a friend of the activist. She marched with the young people. Jesus weeks then when they had a revelation, and so we said, but every woman we respect us, so we wrote. We didn't know that we got to go to after indictment, the next time we'll go trial. We didn't know all that, but we know time was being wasted. So we wrote, and then she cited us for contempt. So the dean of the law school at that time, Bernard, came and told us, you know what? You just got when we appear in court, you just beg the judge and say, Your Honor, we are sorry. The editor in chief was Jim Fomoya. And we just said, He was just beg, and we felt our trap that was setting up because the dean of law school was connected to three party too. So if we go in court and say we beg, it's left with the judge to decide whether to to jail us or to let us go. So we started in the next morning. We told the dean of law school, we'll not beg. They said, show us reason, show the court wants you to show reason why you should not be held in contempt. So we took it literally once, started and wrote 3-page paper giving reason why we should not be held in contempt. So when we couldn't agree, Tori Bernard said, all right, me and my lawyer practicing before the court. When we get there, I will say the respondents are represented by Counselor Tori Bernard, dean of the law school, and themselves. We say we agree. So when the courtroom was packed with university students and poor from town, everywhere, the university students and the old lawyers from three parties said, they were making comment, and y'all let it be frisky, y'all can try that thing with trouble, but y'all going to jail today, you can't joke with the court. So they call us. When they call the case, you say the respondents are represented by Counselor Tori Bernard, dean of the law school, and themselves. Then he sat down. So we got up. The louder voice among us was Abito. He was, I think, co-editor. He had a voice, he didn't need loudspeaker. He read our statement in the court. And we do some flyers. You have always been a judge who has distinguished yourself for justice. We always admire you, but we are worried that you're going down the political path. So she started smiling when we finished. She said, okay, I can understand your worries as non-lawyers. All right, Mr. Clegg, ruling. The court is satisfied that the respondent did not intend to disrespect the court, that they were just worried about the situation involving their colleagues. The respondents are hereby purged of contempt. That whole courtroom burst. I mean, it lifted us up, and they kept us lifted up until we reached university campus. So I said, you see, so we went with the impression that, so the lawyer wanted to put us in trouble. Because we explained and we got out of trouble. So those are two things that really motivated me to go into law. And they're all about, giving people their rights, proper representation.
Yes, that's good. That's good. If you are just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope live stream podcast, and we are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and of course, Twitter. And we are here with the Counselor Gongloe, and we will be right back. Don't go away. Don't forget to share this link with your friends, relatives, and whatever, so that they can be part of this program. We'll be right back. All right, so we are back. My name is Alexander Red, the host here with the co-host Reverend Suah as Deddeh. And of course, we are here every Saturday, and we talk about contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. And our platform is all about preserving and promoting the Liberian Christian heritage. And we have the privilege to be here with Counselor Tiawan Gongloe, a renowned human rights lawyer. And of course, right now, as we all know, he's visiting the United States, and he has been coming across a cross section of Liberians residing in this country, and people are clamoring over some of the things that he's saying. What is he saying to Liberians? And as an advocate for justice, and knowing very well that our country needs to advance justice, or to have, or for everyone to have an equal share or fair share in our country's resources, the political arena, and every other social and cultural sector of our country. And so we discuss faith, culture, and of course today justice. Now, Councillor Gongloe, people are clamoring over the fact that you're a man of integrity, as most people who attest to that. We heard Henry Costa talking about that. And in my own life, you play a very significant role when I was in the hands of the Taylor administration for investigating the Samuel Doki's murder in Nima County, or on the way to Banga. And of course, I was charged with treason in court, and you and Samuel Kofi Wu stood up for me. And I'm now a free man. I was able to leave that country and here in the United States. So I'm grateful uh, for all that you did. I mean, I have the millions in my pocket, to help you or to give you, but that that sense of gratitude or the attitude of gratitude will always be expressed in my life, my family life, and of course, all of those that you have assisted in every other way. Now, from all your experience, you were alive during the Tubman administration, you were alive during the Talbot administration, leading up to the uproar that is a demonstration in 1979 of the rice riot, and many people died in that incident when the government used force to get people off the street. And that, of course, culminated into the 1980 April 12th coup of the Samuel Doe regime. You have seen a lot, Councillor Gongloe, and so it will serve us better as you bidding right now to be a leader of our homeland, Liberia's highest office. What is wrong with our country? What is really wrong, and what makes you think that you are in a much unique position to lead our country?
I like that question. President Toba, I think, hit the nail on the head. And he was a man of the cloth, like you people, and a politician at the same time. In one of his speeches, he said Liberia had three enemies. And he said the enemies were poverty, ignorance, and disease. And then he said, but amongst the three enemies, the worst and the most formidable enemy amongst the three is ignorance. That is even true today. Because it is ignorance that is pushing poverty, it is ignorance that is pushing the prevalence of disease in our country. Because if people knew, for example, that somebody like Jenkins Scott, whom you may not have been too old to know, was one of the very powerful persons on Odu, serving as Minister of Justice for 6 years and getting all the money for security, and felt like you were next to God, died in the eating garbage in the dump site in Monrovia. No other person will want to be corrupt. No other person will want to use brute force against another Liberian, because Genghis Khan was there when people were being arrested and mistreated, the likes of Gabriel Williams and all these people. Journalists suffer on a do with Grady Allison, the late Grady Allison, and the late Jenkins Khan. And people will not be corrupt. People will not be brutal. I mean, what happened for the first time in the history, I don't know of any other time that has happened, and I read history a lot. What happened on July 26th this year should not have happened. It's unheard of. The young people of Liberia have become so civil with demonstrations, from the protest of bring back the $16 billion and the COP protest. All other protests have been civil because I've been with them. I was the advisor in the bring back to the $16 billion led by Martin Collins and others. And I said, be civil. We had a meeting with the Minister of Justice, the UN, and all of that, and we all agreed that the protest would be civil, and was civil. From that time, the young people have been. So on July 26th, from all that I've heard, the young people from the Student Unification Party went to the American embassy to protest and say, in our view as Liberians, there's nothing to celebrate, because governance in this country has been nothing but subjecting people to poverty and hardship. It is their right under the Constitution. Article 14 of the Constitution gave all Liberians the right to think freely. Then Article 15 gave all Liberians the right to express themselves. You know, so they went there. If you remember Monrovia, and it stayed that way today, that part of Monrovia near the Masonic Temple where the American embassy located today is a place where you can stay for 30 minutes. You will not see any car pass. It's not a normal route for motor vehicles, so they were not disturbing anything. The national program was being held at the Centennial Pavilion on Ashmore Street. On what basis did anyone go there to go and engage them violently? It was uncalled for. And the group that went there, for all accounts, was a government-sponsored group from the CDC. Why would they do something like that? And so I hope, President George, we are responsible for desecrating our national holiday by bloodletting. The young man, Christopher Walter Cicilu Civili, is lying in a hospital and people are afraid that he could die. Why would you want your regime to be credited for something like that when we know other President Tubber, who was largely a good leader, once people got killed and buried, it didn't take 1 year, he was overthrown, virtually in reaction. We have seen things like that happen. Why would you do something like that? You know, so these are the things that motivates me. I believe that governance should be done in a different way. If you read the Declaration of Independence of Liberia, it is stated that Liberia was meant to be an asylum from abuse, a place where all persons visiting or living will feel freedom and respect for human rights, where all residents and citizens will feel the presence of law and order. And they sum it by saying that we will show to the rest of the world that Black people are capable of governing themselves just like all other races. That dream remains elusive because when a fingerful of people take power and they want to enjoy disproportionately the income generated from the resources of the country and deprive the majority, anybody who speaks against that becomes an enemy. And a group of people who speak against that are violently mistreated and their rights are violated. So I strongly believe it is based on ignorance and lack of appreciation of history that makes greedy people who take power to abuse power in the manner in which they do, and journalists get detained, ordinary people get detained and beaten up. All of these things are based on ignorance, and that is why we need a new order of governance through a leader who understands our history, who understands that we need to lead by example, as Jerry Rawlings, as Paul Kagame, as many other persons have done. Kwame Nkrumah did not steal. Government is not a place to steal, it's a place to serve. And I've been an advocate of, integrity in government. I've been an advocate of caring more for the people than caring for myself, as Costa was saying. And that's the only way to maintain stability and to restore, in fact, to enhance, because the people are not able to enhance public confidence in the government of Liberia. I want a government that will enjoy public confidence, public trust. I want a public trust can protect government. And once we do that, I believe Liberia can be a sweet land of liberty. That is why I want to use the broom to sweep corruption out of Liberia, so that Liberia can be a sweet land of liberty. You know, people like to be home. I want a country in which people will be reluctant to depart from and hurrying to go back to. People like that, love their home, no matter how it is. I was in this country in 1990. The number of South Africans that were in New York, every city has so many South Africans. As soon as Mandela won and he started the foundation of good governance, all the South Africans went home. The guy American citizenship, the guy American passport, they only come to visit it. You hardly see South African anywhere. And I strongly believe when we win power, we take over power, as we know, we'll win next year. As a project manager redirecting the ship of state, all Liberians will go home and contribute to fast tracking the development of Liberia.
Yeah. So I was getting to what is really systemically wrong with our governing structure as a whole. You work in a government, you serve as a solicitor general. Your experience, what is totally wrong? Is it a systemic structural problem, or it's just a matter of people who are not really committed to patriotism, or they are not they don't have the love for country? What is systemically wrong to you? You have seen, because you have been in a system. That's what I want to know.
You know, some of it is systemic. Some of it is attitudinal, based on character of people who lead. The systemic part is like the level of power that is in the hands of the president. President appoints superintendents, sheriffs of court, you know, appoints people in the three branches of government. So there is a pervasive power that the president enjoys that makes a lot of people so loyal to the president, don't want to offend the president by correcting him, you know. So that is systemic, and we need to let power devolve on the people more, so that, you know, a democratic government is a government by, of, and for the people. Let it be run by the people, so that the president is only a supervisor of governance process, but not to make every decision. It's worse even today that we have now election for chiefs, you know, clan chief, paramount chiefs for a long time. The president, the executive, you know, the president is appointing town chiefs and all these people. So they are not loyal and accountable to the people that they govern. I think we need to amend our constitution so that the superintendent is elected. That has been my position. I've been part of the discussion on local governance. So I think governance needs to be more localized, you know, so that the people, you know, are part of the decision making. Why would the president care for the poor in the, I mean, the superintendent care for the poor in the country when all he needs to do is to satisfy the president? So that is systemic. And why wouldn't the clerks of court and all these people be appointed by the judiciary, and why must it come from the president? You know what I'm saying? Court administrator, all these people. So some of those powers need to be taken away by law, so that the power is more shared. But we copy after the United States government, and in the United States government, there's the same systematic control is actually given to the president largely. The president controls the coercive power. That means the army and the police. The president also controls the power of the press. All the legislature does is to appropriate the money, but it's the president that spends it. And you have a president who is bad and wants to actually control. He can delay requests from the other two branches of government as a tactics to promote a relationship that puts him in control, for them to be more loyal with him and not to be brutally frank. He can actually not let the police, for example, protect people in the other two branches of government. He can delay things. He can do different things because he controls coercive power and controls the power of the press. Money and force are two very important sources of power for one person to have. So unless you are a president who understands that the three branches of government are equal and coordinated, the president is only a coordinator, and the president must obey, and respect, must obey the law and respect the power of the two, it's easy for the president to influence the two. In America here, after they came up with a constitution, they actually wrote on how the president will relate to those other two branches of government, how the three branches will interact. So you have the Madison paper, all the different papers that people read and help them to see how this Republican system based on three branches of government can function. Until we have a president who understands the nature of this government in terms of the law and how it should, and take reference from other democracies, we'll have the situation continue because of the power of the purse and the coercive power that the president enjoys. So if the question is what distinguishes me from the other people, this is something I've been dealing with for years. I wrote in 1999 in the Democracy Watch magazine, Liberia's experience with the separation of powers. And I did a research on this. So that's something that has been on my mind. I wrote, for example, the booklet that was used in the mass communication department on the Liberian law and the media. And I emphasized that sedition, criminal malevolence, and criminal libel against the president should not exist because it just strengthens the executive power to control, because you can't speak against the executive. And I'm happy today that I give credit to the president. We are all the time on it because in 2018, even though I drafted the law for the repeal of that act when I was Solicitor General in 2009, President Salif did not submit it as she would do with other laws that have 4G speed. She kept it. And it was George Weah, while the euphoria was still on, that passed the law that is called the Camara, that submitted the law and put force behind it, and it got passed. It's called the Camara law. If the law had not passed in 2018, but now it will not have passed because now people are speaking against Weah and he wants to retain power. So this is something that he scores a historic victory on. So the thing that distinguishes me from the other candidates, I'm an economist. I taught economics at the University of Liberia from 1982 to 1990. People like Joel Howard, the current vice president, Justice Kabina Janek, Justice Kaba, Samuka, and many other people who are leading and functioning in government today, including even the recently elected senator of Lofa candidate Joseph Jala was my student in 1982. So I understand economics. I've also been a lawyer for 34 years, and I've worked in the arena that becoming Solicitor General, becoming president of the bar. So Liberia couldn't get it better than someone who has been an advocate for good governance and the rule of law, and has actually worked in the arena. I've been an economist and a lawyer. So these are two key areas that anyone needs to understand. Even one of it is important for running a country. And none of my competitors, including the president in power, has this unique background that I have.
Yes, and quickly before you come in, Reverend Deddeh, now you work as Solicitor General at the Justice Ministry, the entire judicial system branch of government. What did you find that you thought, or you at the time, that you did to correct one in the judicial system and in the legislature branch of government? What do you think it is wrong that you think that that particular law body should be doing so that we can have an efficient and effective system running? What is your personal experience and
So
what changes do you make?
Let me talk about
In a
justice.
nutshell.
The first thing is that at the Ministry of Justice, I found that when I was Solicitor General, all the county attorneys were non-law school graduates. Some of them were not even high school graduates. And I said to myself, if these people don't know law, on what basis are they putting people in jail? On what basis are they working with the police to arrest people? So Liberian government is involved in violation of human rights because the agent of change must be himself changed, Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So I worked with Omil, thinking out of the box, because Omil came to me and said, Omil wants to train your county attorneys. I said, I do not have trainable county attorneys. So I worked with them and got money from them, entered into an MOU to retain active practicing lawyers to serve as part-time prosecutors. So I'm paying them $800. We sign a contract with them every 6 months. One of the beneficiaries of the contract is the current Solicitor General of Liberia. So now he came from law school. I hired him and gave me a contract and sent him
CFOS, right? Serrano CFOS.
and sent him to Buchanan. All right. So after 18 months, I convinced the president to actually retain the lawyers that I had persuaded to work as prosecutors, and they were all, the president agreed. They put it in the budget. They started paying them $1,200. They gave them one twin cabin pickup, one generator, one laptop, and prosecution fund. Some of them $1,000 for the larger counties, and the smaller counties $500. And prosecution started going. So from 1847 until 2006, I transformed prosecution to have people trained as lawyers prosecute. That was a big, default, and I transformed. That's why I call myself a transformer. I also recommended in 2007, we were talking about rape and domestic abuse and all of that. Let us have an SGBV prosecution unit established. In my 2007 report as Solicitor General, told the minister, and it was accepted. I actually stayed there. The government accepted it. We established a unit. I interviewed the first director, the first applicant for directorship, and got former Associate Justice Felicia Comer to head the unit as an experienced judge and justice. She would direct and lay the foundation. We got lawyers and case liaison office and all that. So I transformed that. Then when, and the justice ministry started working well. And the thing I like about good change is difficult to reverse it till today. All the county attorneys in Liberia are all law school graduates. No, we don't have quacks anymore in the system. So the prosecution is clean. Then what I see about the executive, in my view, and then good thing, then Chief Justice Johnny Louis said, oh, so you got social law school graduate and county attorneys. Then we got public defenders in the county who are not law school graduates will do the same thing. So he too retained law school graduates and appointed them as public defenders in all the counties, and then gave each of them twin cabin pickup too. So they were equal on both sides. Prosecution and defense were equally represented by adequately trained lawyers, so that if they take prisoner to court, the county attorney does not have unfair advantage over the defendant. Then, but by that time, the judiciary had already recommended only law school graduates to be judges. So now, as it is, there's improvement in the judiciary because the judge is a law school graduate, the prosecutor is a law school graduate, the public defender is a law school graduate. The only thing that is affecting is the influence of the executive, which is more political, of the judiciary. So the independence of the judiciary is affected by strong influence of the presidency, which shouldn't happen. Now, on the side of the legislature, under President Salib, the work of the legislature is to oversee, to look at the different sectors, to oversee governance, and hold the executive government as representative of the poor accountable to do what is right for their protection and welfare. But President Salib allowed the legislature now to be involved in governance that is really undermining the work of the superintendents. They have this thing where the legislature are part of the decision making and the execution of the budget in the country. So who will account to who now? If they are part of the county sitting and they are determining how the money allocated for each county should be spent, the money coming from the resources for the different counties should be spent, then who is going to account to who? Because the role of the legislature is to hold the executive accountable. So it has become blurred now that function is being undermined, in my view, by greed, because when they go to get county sitting, they get honorarium, they get a hotel bill fee, we paid, and all those different things. So, but the legislature, the role of the legislature is to support, to oversee governance in such a way that the interest of the poor is not compromised. You see, in 1930, 10 senators made the president and vice president, Charles Dickens, to resign when over the Fanado crisis. It was determined by the report of the League of Nations that the president and vice president were involved in selling slave labor to Fanado, and they were going to reduce the sovereignty of Liberia by making some kind of trust territory or something of the League of Nations. 10 senators, Grand Bassa 2, Montserrat 2, Standard 2, Maryland 2, Cape Mount 2. Only 10 senators in 1970, no VOA, no internet, no BBC. But those people love their country so much. Money, I'm sure the president could have taken some of the money generated from the Fanado sale of labor to bribe them. They cited the president and said, if you and your vice president don't resign, we'll impeach you. He walked from there, went home, and both of them tendered their resignation. It showed the power of the legislature. They have that power, but they're not using it in the interest of the people. And that's one of the things that we encourage them to do and will promote and respect.
Okay, so we don't have much time, but Reverend Deddeh, go ahead.
Yes, certainly. Thanks, Alice. I've read your acceptance and declaration speech delivered December 4th, 2021. You said some very beautiful things, but one thing that caught my attention, Council, was when you said you intend to clean Liberia of corruption and keep it environmentally clean, beautiful, and safe for Liberia. My question, Council, is how do you intend to clean Liberia of corruption?
You know, people are more, a criminal mind is more sophisticated than a legal mind. And so they can find all kinds of ways, right? But here is what we intend to do. First, in the first 100 days, I'll issue an executive order that no one will interfere with police operations, so that police does its work professionally, independently, so that everybody will be on an ambit of law, that any minister or official of government that type of police operation will be dismissed immediately. In this country, everybody is under the police. The same ticket that the police will give you for exceeding speed limit, the same ticket they will give to a congressman. Now, what they call rule of law, everybody is under the law. The next thing will be another executive order to protect the independence of the judiciary, so that if anybody interferes with the judiciary, a minister or any commission official of the government, will have you dismissed. For elected official, will send a bill that will make interference with the police and the judiciary an impeachable offense. But more than that, we intend to operate an open government. If you tap on the computer now, you know President Joe Biden's salary, you know the Chief Justice Robert's salary, you know the Speaker Nancy Pelosi's salary. You do not know the salaries of comparable official government in Liberia. So it is that secrecy that promotes corruption. So when you see a lawmaker billing, 5-story building, $200,000 house, you say you don't know my salary and benefits. The same thing with ministers. So I intend on the Executive Mansion website to have the total value of the assets of the president, of all appointed officials, their salaries and benefits, down to the least civil servant on the internet, because the employers of government officials, the people of Liberia, have a right to know how much they are paying them. When we do that, then I will introduce something revolutionary. Quarterly lifestyle audit. I'm not saying institutional audit. If Deddeh, Minister Deddeh, was using Volkswagen before, or the government assigned, as his private car, and all of a sudden he bought the newest Mercedes-Benz operated by electricity that is $200,000, $300,000. I want the auditor to ask him where he got money from when his total worth is known, is on the internet. If he can't answer, you'll be dismissed. But the auditor will also come to the president first. In fact, Mr. President, Counselor Gongloe, you say you are going to be a street leader, but we see that your total worth, at least the one that is on the internet, is $50,000. How come you are building a 7-story building in Glaze up here? And we check the value of the building is $500,000. If I can explain, I will resign because that will be outrageous. Change begins with the change agent. If I can't do that, I can't police other people. I will have no moral authority. But I will not do that because I'm already settled in my view. You know me. Therefore, any minister who has a different lifestyle, not supported by his salary and his net worth, will be dismissed immediately, turned over to the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission for full investigation and prosecution. And I strongly believe, Suah, if 3, 4, 5 ministers are in jail, their property seized and returned to the people of Liberia, and they're in jail for 5 to 10 years, the other in government who are rogues who want to steal will advise themselves not to do so because Counselor Gongloe will have no compromise for that. And then there will be rogues who want to come into government. You being Liberia, how, for example, during the Warren Fashion time, some people used to say, they Warren Fashion one lucrative position, one maritime, one FPRC, we want a telecom, one finance ministry. These are lucrative positions. When you give internal affairs, we're not internal affairs, we're gonna post and telecommunication. So that people who come into government are people who want to serve and not to steal. I believe when we do this, we will go a long way in combating corruption.
Yes, and you talk about Liberia needs ideas, okay, and ideas that are cogent, ideas that will revive our country from the current status quo, to a much higher heights. Now, ideas build a nation. But over the years, we have seen the progressives from PAL to Moja, and they all brought ideas. And we know theory is good, but if you look at all the other aspirants from Joseph Boakai to the incumbent President Weah, as well as the other candidates, that are hoping to throw their hat in the race, they all have ideas and they're all pen on paper for people to see. They look good on paper, but look how they help our country. I mean, so if someone is listening to you right now, yes, ideas are good and they know your track record. However, they need to be convinced more. Why should they support you in every way to become president of our country? Because they have heard this over and over, and they turn such ideas or that have been propounded as rhetoric, the same old thing. How can you
So let me.
convince those people in a summary? Because
No,
we
so I
run out of
don't,
time.
I don't blame them because they are being beaten by people saying one thing and doing something else for a long time. But let me say, everything I say are things that I've tested before, like Costa said last night. Look, 1992, I was just 2 events I will tell you, one on law and order, and the other one on corruption. So I was driving a car in 1992 with IGNU license plate. I reached the intersection of Basel Community and the bypass right there, you imagine, right by Old Maternity Center. And one SSL officer called me, Tiawan, I was not counselor then, I was attorney at law. And I looked to the man, and I didn't look in front of me, I hit a taxi in the rear. And it was a taxi, an old taxi, it just went in. I got down, I was worried that somebody got injured. The passenger got down, nobody was injured. The police officer came and told the taxi driver, "You're wrong. Why you stop me in front of the chief abruptly like that?" I got out from the car and said, "Officer, you are wrong." I was not even looking. I am wrong. The traffic law in Liberia says you must keep at least 1 car distance between you and the car in front of you. I was not looking in front of you. I hit this car. He said, "No, chief. I saw the car. That the man who stopped abruptly." I said, "No, that's not true." So I said, "Let's go to the police station." Went to the police station. I told the chief of traffic, "Why you got a man? You cause trouble." I said, "I was not looking. I'm admitting that I hit the guy in the rear. I'm wrong." Then he said, "I'm right." What kind of police academy he went to? So I signed paper and told Siku, "I'll repair your car." From that time, the now Siku on my side are friends. He said, "Hey, well, guys," I said, "Thank you, because they will come to jail me, take money from me, then repair my own car on top of that." All right? That law and order. I just want to, there are many examples, but I just want to say that one. Then in the same 1992, I was sent on a 20-day trip to be as presidential envoy in West Africa. I accomplished a mission in 10 days and returned to Monrovia. Francis Carper was Minister of Finance in Monrovia. I carried the 10 days money. I was giving $4,500 as per diem. So 10 days money was $2,250. I came back to Francis Carper and said, Francis, yeah, the money that remains. He said, what money? I said, I want 10 days, I 10 days money. He said, I don't understand that per diem for you. We finish putting a rug. I said, no, I can't take this money. You got to take the money back. So he said, but when a stranger idea you bring it, so I said, per diem is not additional pay. It's money you receive for food, lodging, and incidental away from your duty station. After we argued for 30 minutes, he finally took the money reluctantly, gave me a receipt. The next day, he went to National Bank right opposite right by Finance Ministry and deposited the money and brought my receipt, sent my receipt to the mansion. So in terms of corruption and my record, you read it recently in the bar association, I would travel when the bar of the country I travel to handle my expenses. I bring the money in the bar, give me back. So I'm not speaking about things I've not done. I'm speaking about things that I've done and I believe is doable. There is nothing in the government that makes anybody automatically corrupt. Corruption is a deliberate thing that is done, is planned and executed. Being in government just give an opportunity for people to show their corrupt behavior. But not government can make people corrupt. And there's no mosquito in the government that bites you to be automatically corrupt without knowing that you are corrupt. So no. We used to criticize our university and they used to tell that thing you're talking when you get there, you'll do the same thing. That thing used to be on my mind. And every morning as a Christian, I used to pray to God, God, help me not to cross the line that I shout at other people for. And I remain consistent. So I've been executive assistant to the president. I actually practiced to be president because I worked with executive with the president. So I was like an apprentice. I've been Solicitor General controlling the Department of Prosecution. I've been member of the cabinet. The only position in the executive that I've not done is the president. And I believe that I can carry my ideas and experience to the presidency. That distinguishes me from any candidate in this race.
Yes, and we got two more questions. Goes almost off.
Almost finished, right? Counselor, before we leave, I want to just go back to something you said in your declaration and acceptance statement. I'm just interested in your interest in naming some presidents whose strengths you want to learn from. But interesting, I don't see the name of the president you work with. Any reason for that?
I didn't get. Frankly, I was reading one of the comments on your thing, so please read.
Okay, the question is, I look at your acceptance and declaration statement or speech you delivered again in Compass City, and I see you said you want to learn from the strengths of Barclay, J.J. Roberts, or William Albert Torber, William V.S. Stockman, and Samuel Doe, but I don't see the name of the president you work with. I'm seeing, is there any reason for that?
The reason is I was so disappointed with the president I work with. I took her as a person of ideas.
You mean Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, right?
Yeah, she criticized President Torber over nepotism. That President Torber appointed his people in government, his brother as finance minister, blah, blah, blah. And she was also on the Brunel Commission after the 1979 protest against the increment of rights. And the proposed code of conduct, she was on that committee. So as a person who read Liberian history, I said, oh, the woman has been an advocate of change, you know? So I work with her, and I used to tell her, I strongly believe that your government will lay a firm foundation for respect for the rule of law and human rights, and will lay a firm foundation for good governance totally, because you work with UN, you work with World Bank, you work with all the organizations, and then you work with Talbot, who, you know, was a better leader than most of these people. And I was disappointed. On the day I was commissioned, when I was proffering toast on behalf of the minister, I said, Madam President, I came to work with you. I'm not a job seeker. I came to work with you because of the ideas that you've espoused in the past that you've gone to jail for. When you change your means substantially, myself, I will leave your government without notice to you. And she said, let's clap for him. So when she changed your means substantially, I resigned from government without notice. It is a 13-page press statement that is on the internet, on the perspective. So I couldn't be so inconsistent by saying that I will copy something from her because she went on the totally wrong side. I can accept mistakes from Doe, even mistakes from Taylor, but I can't accept mistakes from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf because I feel everything she did was deliberately done. You know.
Okay, and just quickly here now, looking at our country right now, what will you say about the moral conscience of our country? Looking at the church, the ecclesiastical establishment of our country, do you think that the church is helping to reverse our current generation or the cultural generation right now that is degrading or decaying when it comes to the moral fabric of our country? Or do you think you have ideas to share with the church in their role to reverse the current decaying of our country? Because if you look at our constitution, in its preamble, it says that our devotion, it is upon the gracious providence of God. That's how we have a nation and will survive, by the very God that is recognized by the framers of that constitution. But looking at our country today, we see the moral fabric of our country decaying, the family family disintegration, and also looking at corruption. We talk about corruption, but corruption starts from the heart. And so my question is, what will you say about the Liberian church, and what can they do, or what can the entire church do right now to get Liberia, or to reverse that down the road when it comes to our moral fabric of our country?
It is, is really disappointing. As a person growing up in Liberia, I sat under Father Francis, Father Tikpo first in Tapeta in 1969 preaching. In fact, that is what converted me from being a mere Baptist to a Catholic. When I attended the Catholic school and I saw how Father Tikpo was relating the Bible to society, I said, oh, but a good church here. So I went there. And when I went to St. Mary's, I continued with Father Francis, fearlessly speaking about the people of God and criticizing how the people of God were being treated by even local government officials. When I came to Monrovia, I used to go to the Catholic church in the morning, 8 o'clock mass, only to go back to the dormitory immediately to listen to the Providence Baptist Church hour at 11 o'clock to listen to Reverend Tomo Reeves. Wow. I got so much educated about Reverend Tomo Reeves. And the reason Tomo Reeves was so fiery is that Speaker Richard Herring was a deacon in that church. And there was several powerful people, in the government that were in that church. And he used to speak to them every Sunday directly, frankly, without any compromise or diplomacy, really representing as an agent of God right in that church. I used to listen to Bishop Brown of the Episcopal Church. Then later on, Father Francis was made Bishop of the Catholic Church. Wow. So these people, then later on, Bishop Atokula joined them. And then Reverend Diggs, Bishop Diggs. In the 80s, the Liberian Council of Churches was so powerful. And the civil society was not strong that time. Political activities have been banned by Decree 2A and Decree 88A and all that. But even though respected the church, therefore they used the podium to speak for the people. And it used to really be consoling for us that the moral fabric of the society was being strengthened by the ecclesiastical segment of our society. Today is not that way, because even my own church, the Catholic Church voice is so, we don't even hear the voice anymore. So disappointing. Then there are members of the other churches that are on boards. You saw that a board chairman at the Roberts Fee even became acting managing director. and was removed under the atmosphere of suspicion of corruption. So it is really affecting the young people in terms of the moral direction, because men of the cloth, women of the cloth, who should be giving us a moral direction, given the fact that there is complete moral deficit in the governance of our country, are themselves not doing well. They are getting corrupt people to be Father of the Year, to live and the different rallies in the churches, and giving them high level of position in the churches. What that teaches the young people is that, oh, the way to go is to be corrupt, because then you are acceptable in the sight of God, because these church leaders are the representative of God on earth. I saw Reverend Deddeh Johnson one time at the ATM, and he told me, oh, he can tell George Weah, the President George Weah, things directly. And he said one time he was going to see President George Weah, and very close ministers to Weah were saying, when you go there, telling this. And he said, but why you can't tell him? He said, I beg you, somebody we're in one room, the man took out the way we enjoy now. We're not going to tell you something that will make us lose our jobs. And I said, but they were appointing you to be board member of Metal Steel. So where is your loyalty to God? You know, the division of church and state came from the Bible itself, when Jesus Christ said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. Now, the whole thing is blurred with our religious leaders. You even saw one situation where in one church, I think at the Methodist church or so, where the bishop was genuflecting, lying down flat in front of the president. These are terrible symbols, you know, and I don't know which church ordained in fact, recently, also I think that bishop, I saw the picture with the bishop who was being ordained bowing to the president, and the president being a pastor. I don't know who made him pastor. And this kind of acceptance within the council of churches, the evangelical community, that the president is also part of them, is something that the church had not spoken about clearly, so that at least, you know, the society can have some sort of redemptive path. It is a serious situation that you know is so disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider Liberia, not legislatively, but Liberia based on its history, looking at the principles and values of Christian heritage, at least a country based on Christianity leading the way? And if so, or if not, what do you see as a tension between the Islamic community and the Christian community?
You know, I must say historically that Liberia has been a very tolerant country in terms of the two well-known religions. If you go back in the history, in a book written by Sir Harry Johnston, published in 1906, which is closer to the formation of the Liberian state, he said by the 1900s, there were 2 million Mohammedans in Liberia. By Mohammedans, he meant Muslims. And then all the way from the center of Monrovia to Bidema, all the way to Sierra Leone border, all those people were Muslims. And it were the Muslim leaders that gave land to the Episcopalians to build a church in Cape Mount, the Catholic Church to build Catholic Church in Bomi, and all of the churches. And so even as far back as that time, there was no acrimony between the two religions. And it has remained that way forever. I remember that during the war, Alhaji Kumar tried to bring a religious dimension to the Liberian civil conflict, which are actually based on bad governance and not religious differences or tribal differences, and said he was launching a jihad. And Sheikh Kafuma Kone, a respected Islamic cleric, said he had no authority to launch a jihad and there was no basis for launching a jihad. So I think religious tolerance in Liberia has been laudable, and we should keep it that way. And even as I speak, I mean, talking about the Islamic community, I'm a Christian, but I have to show respect to the late Sheikh Afumba Kone, that he was a powerful, very powerful Islamic cleric who also spoke about how government was proceeding in Liberia, and very critical at the risk of his life and anything about the moral conscience of our society. I remember him coming to the hospital to visit me just as Archbishop Francis did, against all odds. So I think religious tolerance in Liberia has been great, and we should keep it that way. We who are Christians should deepen our faith by the way we not only we read the Bible, but the way we relate to our fellow men, and demonstrate our commitment to our faith, even at the peril of our lives, because we know that people who stood up for faith became martyrs in the past, but they did not compromise their faith, as some of the religious leaders are trying to do today, to be in good favor with the power that be. That is, for me, a wrong path for Liberia.
So do you think, from your own experience, the virtues of integrity, honesty, truth, they are all being undermined by hatred, envy, jealousy, lack of love?
All of that. But again, as I said earlier, it's all based on ignorance. Because if we know that all of those things, envy, jealousy, hatred, and all of the things that undermines man's relationship with another man, a woman's relationship with another woman or with a man, have all collectively assisted or contributed to the breakdown of the Liberian state, the Liberian society that was meant to be an example for the rest of Africa. Then we need to change. I don't bear any hatred, or I sometimes when I get angry, I pray to God, because I think anger is a sign of weakness. You know, I pray to God, why am I getting angry? I need to understand the world better. Because the thing about hatred, envy, anger, and jealousy, all the different things, is that the custodian feels it more than the object of the anger or jealousy or hatred. So why don't you keep your mind as a little heaven, instead of contaminating it with all kinds of views that affect the host? Because if you are holding those in your mind, if I'm angry or I hate you, Alex, you don't even know. I alone know. I'm going around with that kind of heavy burden on me. That affects people. That is the reason why even the burden of dishonesty. That's the reason why some people get pressure and can't go down, because you something wrong that you have done to society. You're eating all our money and everything. The auditors have not caught you, but you yourself know you've done wrong. No matter what kind of tablet they give you, the pressure can't go down, because your conscience know that what you did is wrong. And so we just have to do what is right, consistent with our Christian commitment, to be in good graces, not only with God, but based on what we do here to our fellow men.
So, Counselor, from my end, I just want to know what message you have for the young people of Liberia.
The message I have for the young people of Liberia is to be loyal to their country and their conscience, to be law-abiding. Lawlessness is not good for our country. To respect the rights of everyone. As young as at the age of 22, as a sophomore student at the university, I was speaking for my country and going to jail. And my father used to say, look at you. You come from Nimba, Jackson Hebdo, Charles Boyu, you name all the people, Gabriel Fangalo, came from the same school. Who are you to question government? I say, it's my right as a citizen. I want Liberian citizens, young people especially, to think more about the country than themselves, and not think about making money any way possible at all cost. No. Because when they do so, they undermine the Republic of Liberia. That's what the simple advice I have for all Liberians, because that's the path that I grew as a young man, and I'm happy that with my Christian values and my commitment to my country, I am among the respected citizens of Liberia, as you people have said, and that pleases me more. If I were to die today, I'll be happy with the life that I've lived.
All right, right. And
Thank you,
it was
Council.
a
Thank you very much.
privilege. It was a privilege talking with you here. And we learned a whole lot about your childhood, how you came up, your siblings, as well as your parents, your experience from your dad, Teacher Gongloe, and your inspiration to get into
Ellis,
uh,
can I call
law.
you James?
Yeah, you can call me James.
And how
You
your
can call me.
original name was
You can, you
James.
can, you can call me James. You know the other thing I've said, or another thing, the other somebody said for true. I said, oh, I can set trap. I used to set bird trap and all. I know what time birds can take by around 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You set the bird trap on the river. You start. I used to catch up to 30 birds. Yeah, I know all those
Okay.
things.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Wow.
you.
Yeah, so when we have been talking with Counselor Gongloe here, the Tiawan Gongloe factor in Liberian politics, what you don't know about him. And we learned a whole lot about him today.
Yes, indeed.
And as he is seeking the Homeland's highest office, for those of you who have been supporting him, he is the United States, and you can contact his communication director, Dr. James Panedo. And I believe, is that a contact? Is that the only contact for people to get to you?
Well,
Uh,
people like Gibson, Jero, uh, Joseph Batua are all on board, and these are celebrated journalists known in Liberia. So yeah, they are all there. You know.
okay. Or also, you can send out a message here. Look for us on Facebook, our page. You can send out a message if you would like to contact Councilor Gongloe.
And let me say, even in Liberia, I will always be ready. I like your platform because you we talk politics, but you made me feel like an ordinary person as I should, and that's what I like most, to be an ordinary person than an official of government or this great lawyer. That I'm just an ordinary Liberian who has a single share in a corporation called Liberia, like any other person, and I like to be seen as a simple person, because the movement I'm leading is a poor people's movement to uplift the majority of the people of Liberia. So I like to be with them so they don't be afraid of me. God, they say, oh, former minister, former solicitor general. It distances people like, that man, a former solicitor general, or he's a former president of the bar. These are very, very big names that scare people. But an ordinary village boy who grew up in a village sitting on a bamboo bench or go to school or all that, I think, makes people say, oh, yeah, okay, but we are the same. You see?
Yeah.
Yes,
Actually, the intent of
exactly.
the intent of this platform, council, and Ellis has articulated that sufficiently. We
Yeah.
blend the scripture. The scripture informs the physical, and that's what we try to do on this platform. But we are thankful that you recognize that too, of what we really want to do on this thing. Ellis, go ahead. We keep interrupting you. Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And we are so glad because I know you're a man of the people and people acclimate to you because you're down to earth person. And many can attest that, you go in the trenches, you speak to the common people, and you hail from Neighbor County. And also, we understand that you are a person who is whole, let's say, well rounded. You always talk against tribalism, sectionalism, and you want for all tribal groups in Liberia to come together to have a spirit of nationalism and support the country because you believe in diversity and inclusion. And of course, that is the foremost part of your platform that you are trying to tell Liberians residing in the United States, and you believe in justice. And we know justice and righteousness are twin realities of
Yes.
God's attribute that are communicable to us. We have that deep sense of truth within us. And therefore, if we do something wrong, we tend to look at our conscience and know it is wrong. But you have been advocating for justice, and you want for our justice system to be much stronger because God says that righteousness and um, And righteousness exalts a nation, but sin that is doing something against God's will is a reproach or disgrace to a nation of people. So if our country is to rise from the debris of mismanagement, corruption, and every other term or derogatory term that you may say about our country, we are to now see where we have been going wrong. If there's no authentic love, then there is hatred, because that is a total opposite of authentic love. Love your brother as you love yourself. Love other people as you love yourself.
Yes.
And we have seen you in the vanguard, not just of only avenging justice for those who have been taking advantage of the system. You believe in freedom, and everyone should exercise that freedom where, of course, they can find a way or the path to explore their own gifts, talents, and abilities that God has given them. So that is the kind of Liberia that you are looking at from what I heard so far.
Yes.
And it is very, very great that we learn a whole lot about you growing up and some of the wear and tears that you went through to where you are right now. And as a household name in our Liberian politics, hopefully we pray that the Lord's wisdom will be with you so that you can continue to um, advocate for the right thing, and so people can do the right thing, and so change can come finally. And that's why we all look at and will look forward to see our country. And as a man of the people, they call you the poor man lawyer. Would like to extend this heartfelt congratulations to you and your family. That is your wife, your children, your siblings, for throwing your hat in the race and to be a son of the soil from Nema County who wants to bring change to that country. So the Tiawan Gongloe factor in Liberian politics, it is a factor because you have encouraged and inspired a lot of people who today are in government and even out of government, even business leaders. You have taught some of them, and you have shown them what it means to live as a man or a woman with decency and to live in the truth. So we want to thank you so much for coming, and hopefully we'll call on you again, whether you are in Liberia, because I know next year or the end of this year before next year is going to be busy for you, because you will be going everywhere or every part of the country to run your campaign. All right. So thank you very much, Councillor Gongloe.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Council. Thanks for coming and joining us today. We appreciate that.
Thank you. All right.